Welcome everyone. Today we have Pratham with us, and we're very happy to host him on this first episode of Tabnine, hosting influencers from the web, people who are very committed to the developing community. And our first guest here today is Pratham. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Yotam. It's such a pleasure for me to be a part of this series. Thank you so much. How
It's
are you?
I'm very good. It's a pleasure to have you here. So, Pratham, you've been flown away in the past few months. You've gained a lot of followers on both on YouTube and on Twitter, and you're sharing your thoughts and ideas in ways that can help people who want to find their way, their path into the developer community and into development in general. And
Yeah.
I'd like to hear about your background. How did you end up being a web developer?
All right. So first of all, I started my programming journey back in 2017. I was
Hmm.
completely new at that point of time. So I started with the Java programming. I took a course from some local institute in my area, and then I started learning Java. Later, I started with machine learning in 2018, but due to to be honest, I'm not good in math, so I changed my mind and started my development journey with web development using HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and stuff like that. Okay, later, uh, now I have been doing React since I guess around for 8 to 9 months, and I totally love it. And as we all know that I'm posted about lots of stuff about CSS, arts, and React and JavaScript. So yeah, I love development. I have been doing it for around 1 to 2 years.
How long did you play around with HTML and CSS before you took the next step into JavaScript and React world?
Okay, so I think I did around I did span around 6 to 12 months on Vanilla JS, and then I jumped on React because I, it totally depends on person to person. But in totally my opinion, I can say that for jumping onto a particular framework or library, your foundation should be very strong. So I suggest everyone who are watching this series is to just make sure strong your foundation before jumping onto any library or framework. So yeah,
And
I spent around 6 to 12 months on HTML, CSS, and JavaScript.
and what are the main projects that you're doing now when you have the tools and capability of using like a framework as React?
All right, so I have done around 2, 3 projects in React, in which one is a bigger one, and others are just small projects like some notes app, to-dos app, and some encyclopedias.
Hmm.
And the one big project is my chat application, which is a real-time chat application. I built it using React for front end, obviously, and using Node.js for backend. I created it like a hacker theme. I got inspired after watching a series called Mr. Robot.
Mr. Robot.
Yeah.
Oh,
From that, I took
I love that
my
show.
yeah. From there, I took my inspiration and created a chat application, which is a hacker-like theme, basically.
That's so cool. And what do you think you will do with this capability and everything that you learned about web development? How do you see yourself taking it to the next level? That would be the question.
Yeah. I think so far I'm doing pretty well because I'm just 21. I'm a college student currently. I'm in
Hmm.
final year computer science, so I think I'm doing great. And I have lots of knowledge about programming like Java, JavaScript, HTML, CSS, and React. So I think at my age, it's pretty decent to have such knowledge of programming. So I'm quite happy.
Okay, great. Do you see yourself at one day becoming the next Elon Musk?
Thank you so much.
I think we're going to see some big stuff going on.
Yeah.
So today for our viewers, we're going to go deeper a little bit into code, and we will see how you are using HTML, CSS, and React to build a nice app with the help of your AI assistant Tab9. And can you tell us about what we're going to see here today?
Okay, today we will see the real power of React hooks. Some basic hooks like use state, use effect, use ref. We all know about that, but a use reducer hook, it's a rare hook, and we can say that it's an alternative to use state. We
Hmm.
can use it for handling a complex state. So today we are going to make a notes app using useReducer hook only. Basically, the heart of this app is useReducer hook. Here we can write some notes, we can delete it, we can prioritize it, we can complete it. So let me show you by writing something like test. And when I click on the plus button, it will simply show me here. We can prioritize it. And when I click on the priority button, it will show me the dark red border around it so that user can see that it's a prioritized node. We can add some task here.
So useReducer is one of the out-of-the-box React hooks that was introduced in order to help managing states. Am I correct?
Yeah, managing complex states. It's basically like Redux, but Redux is the more powerful than useReducer, obviously. But useReducer is provide us something like that, so we can handle a more complex stuff using useReducer. It's an alternative to UseStat, basically.
That's very helpful. We remember how adding Redux to a project is very complex and demanding to add many files and to manage your store and manage your state. So useReducer simplified the process.
Yeah, somehow. For a small project, so we can say that for a personal project, we can use useReducer. It's a so powerful hook.
Okay, so
today, all that functionality, that prioritize it, non-prioritize it, complete it, uncomplete it, all that functionality is handled by useReducer. So today we are going to build this awesome notes app using that hook.
Amazing. I can't wait to see how it looks under the hood. Take us to your code editor.
All right, here. Okay, so here I just ran the create React app, and create React app provide me this folder. So every time I run this app, I prefer to delete the source folder because they provide me so much testing stuff and files like that. I don't need this at this moment, so I can delete it and create a new folder from scratch.
It's always a good practice when using libraries. First of all, get rid of everything and make sure that you own your own files and build your own project from scratch.
Yeah, I always prefer that. So I can simplify things. So let me create a source folder here, src, and inside it I need two files basically. First one is an index.js and the other one is app.js.
That's pretty basic.
Yeah, that's pretty basic. So we can quickly do that. As you can see, Tabnine is really helping me out.
So we just
by writing all that stuff.
We will probably see it throughout this video, like all the time. Every time that Pratham is typing anything and you see the drop-down menu with the suggestions, we can see that some of the suggestions are written with tab9 near them. This is AI-generated automatic completions that are based on knowledge that Tab9's model learned from 2 million pages of GitHub, and also from the fact that Pratham is using Tab9 for the past few months. So it's already, the deep learning mechanism already learned the methods and the way that Pratham is coding, and it's suggesting code completions that are most commonly used by him.
Yeah, I was totally impressed by this extension. It's so awesome. As now I want to bring some light here. As you can see that I'm writing the React render method, and it's showing me the powerful suggestion that you want to render app and you want to render a document or get element by ID at the root element. So it's so powerful.
So instead of going out to Google and search for the right syntax, you already have it running in your ID.
Exactly.
Amazing.
So I need to import my, sorry about that. I need to import my app. I can quickly do that, app.js. All right, so inside that app.js, what I want to do, simply want to.
That's very basic. When we're creating React components, first of all, we need to import React from React, and now we can start working on the app itself.
Just give me a moment. And here I will return a simple one thing, let's say start. Don't need to export it, so I'm default exported, export default app. Great, so let me start my server. Okay, so I'm running my server already. Let me stop it first. Then I need to go back, and here I want to start my server. It's notes apps. Okay, so while my server is starting, I'm writing a bit code here. So first of all, what I want here is basically an input field where user can add their notes or tasks or to-dos, whatever you want to call it. So first thing I want here is a form.
A form with an input.
Yeah.
And I can already assume that soon enough we will see useReducer getting into action.
Yeah, very soon. So I want my simple basically input here and a button for type submit. You can use input for type submit, but I'm using button for type submit. That's perfectly fine. And now let's write some user code here. It's so powerful. Okay. So basically useReducer takes two values as a parameter. Basically it takes three, but third one is optional and for handling some complex stuff. So
does it work like the other React hooks where the two parameters are the state and the callback function?
You guys did right only once. The second one is state, while the first one is a function. So where the first one is a reducer function basically, and the other one is a state.
Oh, okay.
And it returns two things: the current state. So I can say it's a state, and the other thing is it's user dispatch function. It's basically returns a dispatch function. Using the dispatch function, we can call reducer function and change whatever we want to do with our current state. So let me quickly define my reducer function here. Okay, as you can see, Tabnine is suggesting me that user function takes two parameters. The first one is state and second one is action. It's absolutely right.
Amazing.
So let me define a little bit here. The state is current state and the action is what we want to do with our current state. That was the action. So if I can make a quick counter app so that we can build some better understanding. Okay, so I can pass my count like 0. But whenever we will use useReducer, it's recommended to use some complex state because useReducer is for handling a complex state. So I'm using my count as an object.
Okay.
Okay.
That makes sense.
And now what I can do, for a quick note, we can remove this form for a moment. Oops. And we can make a p tag here. And inside this, we can render my count using state.count because the current state is this, and as this is object, so I need to call it using state.count. And I want a button plus button here.
So we're rendering. So far we're rendering three elements. Then an H1 element, the P element that will project our state based on the count that is affected by your useReducer, and I can only guess that the button now will affect the useReducer and change the count.
Yeah, absolutely right. But as we all know that the counter app is very easy, and we are always going to build this with a use state hook, but we can also use useReducer to build this, and that's why I'm trying to show you here. On click.
Yeah.
It will call a callback arrow function, and inside this arrow function I have a dispatch method. And let me quickly call a dispatch method here. So by doing so, what I'm going to do, I'm going to calling my dispatch method, but it's actually calling my reducer method here. So if I can console.log something for better understanding, console.log hi. Okay, I think it should work fine.
Can't wait to see.
Some errors, approaches. Okay.
What are we missing here?
The small. Yeah.
There it is.
Okay, so now if I click on the plus button, it will simply print hi onto the console. Let me open console.
Yeah.
And now if I click on the plus button, it will be calling hi, but some errors. Okay, that's because I haven't implemented any functionality for state. That's why showing me an error. So I can simply comment it out for a moment. Yeah.
And
now when I click on the plus button, it's printing high.
And there it is.
And there it is. And how I'm doing it? By simply calling my dispatch method, which will call my reducer function here, and it will printing high.
So using dispatch is part of the syntax of using React hook called useReducer.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Right after the onclick inside the button element, you're using an arrow function, an ES6. Yeah, that's ES5 actually.
Arrow function is it's reduced so much code.
Definitely.
Arrow function is also. Yeah.
Okay, so what is the next step here?
Okay, so next step is dispatch function take a parameter which is an object type of type, and but simply it's take a value. So let me say add, or we can say increment. Simple inc.
Yeah.
And here I can target this. I can tackle this type using if statement, like let's say if action dot type. Action dot type equals to obviously my inc, because I'm passing my inc type from here. So what simply it's going to return my state. I guess it's count only. Count, and it will be around like state dot count plus 1. It should work, I guess. Or I need to do this. Okay. Yeah, now it's working.
Great. So we have our counter running. Now we need to start adding the to-dos into the list.
Yeah. All right. So this is the basic boilerplate of how useReducer works. So let me quickly remove all that code, and we need to make that some nodes app. So from current state is an empty array, and here from the state, not state, but what I want to do is return my nodes. All right. So here our current state is just an empty array of nodes. So I can write here it's nodes. All right. Now I can check. We are just making a input and button. Now what I want here to user can add the nodes here. So what I want here is to type submit.
So every node that will be added will be aggregated into the array in the reducer.
Yeah. Every time user enter a node, it will be added onto the nodes array.
Okay.
And we will simply print them onto the screen. Oops, not in the button. Okay, so inside this, what I want here in the input field, I want my value as node. I will quickly make this state in a moment. And my placeholder, I guess some placeholder enter node, and then on onChange event, what I want here, I want to set that value into some kind of node state. Set node target value, and let me quickly make that state here. So we will make this using node and set node use state, and the initial value is obviously an empty string.
Now we're using another React hook. The very
very
basic one, use state.
Yeah, that's very basic one. We can use user here also, but I don't want to complex that app because our main focus is to handle the more complex state, which is a node. Okay. All right. So now user can enter node, and now what I want here is to on submit. Whenever user enters some node and submit the app, I want to call a function here called handle submit.
So the handle submit will add the to-do into the array. And
Exactly.
and eventually it will need to be rendered to the user screen also.
Yeah, yes, exactly. We will implement that in a bit. So handle submit. First of all, whenever user submits the form, our web page refreshes. It's the default behavior. So in order to prevent that, I need to call my event.prevent default function. I need to import that use state hook here. Wait. But I want every time user enter the node, the input field should be get empty. So I'm setting my not task but set no as an empty string again. So let's check this.
The prevent default is a very important hack that many new developers are busting their head trying to figure out how to avoid the automatic
refreshing
refresh
the page.
of the page. So E and prevent default, everyone. Remember that.
Yeah, it's basically E is basically stands for events.
Events.
Yeah, we are not going to discuss that because there are lots of events. One can simply see that using console.log events. So there are bunches of events there attaching with the form. So let me test and hit enter. As you can see, our web page is static, not refreshing itself. Wait.
Amazing.
So
I'll
now,
just explain that the fact that you can just call E as event without declaring what the event is standing for, so the page is understanding that it's going to the top parent, which is the window object, and it goes straight into the APIs of the page, and one of them is prevent default. So when you're using e.event prevent default, the page knows I'm not refreshing.
Yes. So we can simply see that using console.log e. As you can see, there are a lot bunches of events attaching with that handle submit. So let me add something and add. As you can see, there's a lot bunches of events here.
And one of them is the prevent default.
It's prevent default, yes.
Great.
So yeah. All right. So in between these, what I want to do, I want to call my reducer method using dispatch. And here, every time user enter the node, I want to add into the node service. So how can I do that? It's basically simple. First of all, we have a lots of action in our nodes. Like we need to add node, we need to delete node, we need to prioritize a particular node, we need to complete a node. So for that, the first action should be of type add. Whenever user add that node, and actually we can tackle it into the reducer function. If action.type equals to add, what I want to do, I want to simply return its node state. Now it's nodes, because reducer function takes the current state, which is nodes, obviously. And here what I want to do, I want to return my array with spreading out all the values of nodes, which is already into the nodes array. Right, and here I want to create a new node, but here is a problem. As you can see, my node is defined here, not here. Now it should showing me an error that node is not defined. Yes,
because it's not in the same scope. So the first time that you're talking about node, the page still doesn't know what is this node.
What is the node is, yes. So how we can do, so we need to implement something that we can pass this node value from here to here. So how we can do that? In useReducer provide us a simple method called payload. So we can simply, payload, it's payload. So what we can do is here, we can simply pass some values from here to reducer method. So like in this case, we need to pass my node as an object. We are passing it as an object of valued node. All right. So now we can tackle it here. For example, if I console.log here of my value action dot payload dot node. Let's comment it out. Now if I test it, my note value in this case is test. So when I click on add, it will print test here. So that's how I can pass my values from dispatch from here to here using payload functionality.
And you're going to use the payload functionality for all the actions that we want to apply on each node, like for add and for remove and for complete.
Okay, for removing a particular node, we need something that is associated with a particular node so that we can delete a specific node, right? So for doing that, I will show in a bit. First of all, we need to add that.
We will need to add I guess an ID for each node.
Exactly. And for each node, what I'm going to do here simply, I need to call a new method called, let's call it as create node. I'm passing a parameter here, which is action.payload.node. Let me quickly define that function here. Okay, so why I'm doing this, I'll explain in a bit. And here it is node. Okay, and it will simply returns an object, which is ID is every node should have a unique ID. So how we can do that? We can simply name it as 1, 2, 3, but I guess we can do it in simple and most recommended way using date.now.
Just using the current timestamp.
Yes. So now every node should have a unique ID.
That's a nice.
And now what I want.
That's a really nice trick using the timestamp.
Yes. Obviously. And for each node, I have 4 objects associated with it. First one is ID, which is a unique ID. Second one is a node itself. And the third one is complete. So node or to do is complete or not. And by default, when user add it, it will be not complete. So
it will start with false.
Yes, and priority is, we can also, I think, start with false.
Priority is a Boolean. I'm thinking of priority as something that goes here. Tab9 thought the same. Priority for me is something that goes on a scale of 1 to 10, for example.
Oh, all right. So I haven't built it that. We can build that functionality also, but for me, it's priority like when user click on the priority, so that when user adds more than 10 to or 12 nodes, so that user can see it in a better way. So what we will do here, whenever user click on the priority, we will create a red border around it.
Oh, great!
So that user can see it clearly. Yes,
I love it.
All right. So each node associated with the 4 objects like ID, node, complete, and priority. And now I think it should work here. And let me console.log my to-dos nodes error here, so that you can see it's working or not. Let me console.log my nodes. All right, refresh it. And now if let's say we can node 1, it's working fine. And now you can see inside my array there is a one object which has ID of this string, which is a timestamp, a node itself, which is node 1, and the priority and complete, obviously it's false. So we can add lots bunches of nodes here, some random stuff. And now you can see.
Now we should see 2 objects.
Yeah,
oh, you already added
4 values. Yeah, node 1 and this is some random stuff.
And each one with a different ID, each one with a different content.
Yes.
And both false on the priority and on complete. Beautiful.
Yes. And initially the complete and priority is false. Instead of printing out in the console, we can print this nodes here as well. So how we can do that? We can simply using map method of arrays. So we can do that for each nodes.map. And for each node, what I'm going to do here, I'm going to return a simple p tag with my value of node. But node is not a node. Node is an object. Yeah. So I need to tackle that particular field of node, which is node. So node.node. But I think it should work fine.
Which is like nodes dot content of the node.
Oh yeah, we can write it as content, obviously. So let me change it. It's a better for readability also. On if I can spell it correctly, yes.
Excellent.
Now if I refresh it and let's say test, yeah, it's just printing out text. And whenever I using it should telling me that each text should be have some unique key. So what I can do here is simply, as we know that ID is unique for each and every element, so I can simply say that it's note
.id?
.id. Yes, it's very simple.
Great.
And now my error should be go away if I can refresh it.
Now you won't get errors.
Yes, now it's printing out here and console as well.
Working.
Great. Working great so far. You can remove this actually. Alright, so as we know that for each node we have associated with 3 buttons. First one is for delete, second one is for complete, and third one is for prioritize. So I'm making a new component here. Let's say note, and I need to import it. And first let's create a new file here. We can create a new folder called components. And inside this component, we create a new file called node.jsx. And inside this JSX, we need to import my React first.
That's the thing that I love the most about React, how you can divide your components into different small files that each one has its own functionality. For
Yes.
this
That's
example, for creating the node component, we have its own file. It's so easy.
Yes. Okay, so inside this node, we will return a div first. Inside this div, we will return a p tag. It's, let's say, node.content. And inside this props, I'm destructuring my node value. We can use props as well, but destructuring is a good way of doing this. And now I need to pass that node from my app component. So I can pass it like node. I need to export it.
Did you already import it in app.js?
No, not yet. I'm going to import it now. Okay, so import ./component.
There it
Now
is.
it should work as expected, I guess. It's again showing me that error that each child should have a unique key. So we can quickly make that unique key here. Using node.id.
Oh, you took the wrong one there. There you go.
Now. Alright, so I don't want to print out my node only, but here I need to print more 3 buttons associated with each node. The first one is for deleting the stuff. So that's a delete. And the second one is for complete. So let's call it as complete. And third one is for priority. So let's call it as simple priority.
And both complete and priority will be toggle, right? Will both be
Yes.
toggling the Boolean state.
Yes, obviously, because they both are booleans, right? So now I can add my nodes. As you can see, with each node, I have a 3 button associated. The first one is for delete, the second one is for complete, and the third one is for priority. That's good going so far. And now let's import the functionality of delete button first. Okay, so think a little bit about here, but what we're gonna do basically, I want my dispatch function first of all coming from my app component to node component so that we can call my reducer function. So first of all, let's pass that dispatch function as prop. So dispatch right there. And now I have my dispatch function, so let me destruct it here. Okay.
Right.
Great. So now what I want just whenever user click on the delete button, my value should be get deleted from the nodes. So let's first of all call an on-click method here, or on-click event. Okay. So now what I want, I can simply call an arrow, make an arrow function here with dispatch, and this time with the type should be something called delete. Great. And with the each associated delete, I want to pass that ID so that every time user click on a particular node, that particular node should get deleted, right?
Yeah.
So
I'm waiting to see how you're going to loop through the array of the nodes to find the node that you want to delete according to the ID.
all right, so give me a minute. It's very easy and interesting. Okay, so inside the payload, I want to pass my ID as ID. Or it's not ID, it's node.id. Showing me some errors. Okay, so it's ID here and node.id here. Now it's working fine. Okay. Okay, so now we have a lots of cases here, like for adding, for deleting, for completing, and for prioritizing. So instead of using if-else loop, what I'm going to use here, I'm going to use a switch statement here. All right, a switch statement for action.type. And the first case is obviously add. And it's a recommended every time you use state, it's a good practice to use a default case as well. So instead of in the default case, I just want to return my state as it is. So nodes. You can return some errors, but I don't want to return some error. And I just want to return my current state, obviously.
We don't believe in errors anyway.
Yes. And now I can cut this and paste it here. And I can remove this if statement. If it should work fine, I guess. Let me check it once. Yes, it's adding my nodes. Great. All right, the second case is for deleting that node or deleting a particular to-do. So we can delete it. We can call the case is for delete. And it's actually very easy. It will return my, let me loop through my nodes array, and here I can filter them.
Oh, we can use the JS filter, the filter method.
Yeah, obviously. And for each node, whenever node.id or its ID is not equal to payload
dot ID dot node ID.
It's action.payload.id. Okay. Yes, it will simply filters all the value that is not equal to ID and delete that particular node. So let me just try it here, adding some node, and I want to delete this, and it's gonna disappear.
Beautiful. That was so easy.
Yes, array methods are so easy and so powerful. There are lots of array methods like filter, find index, last index, map. So it's a good practice to learn them as well. And that's why I'm emphasizing that learning foundation is a very, very, very important. Before jumping onto the React,
that's a very good example. And also using the switch statement for this case, that's a classic situation where you want to take the switch statement into action.
Yeah, it's a good practice to use whenever you can use something particular. Like if I can use here if-else statement as well, but there's a bunch of if-else statement and the readability of that code will get reduced. That's why I'm using switch statement here. All right, so the third case is for complete the to-do. We can call it as complete. Okay, so first of all, let's call my dispatch method here. Again, what I want, one-click attribute, and here, as you can see, Tabnine extension completes that code for me. It simply created an arrow function here for me.
We love it.
And this time the type is complete. Okay, we can call it anything we want. let's call it complete. And again, we need to pass that particular ID so that we can complete a particular node.
And this time we will need to change something in the appearance of the nodes that we declare as completed.
Yes. And I have a good idea for that. Just give me a minute. Okay. So now we can handle my app here. And for that complete, what I want basically, again, I want to loop through my all nodes so that we can tackle a particular node. So for doing that, I want to call again a map method. And for each node, now this time I need to check that a particular node ID is equal to the ID that clicked on the complete button. So if node.id equals to action.payload.id, so what I want to do, I want to return that. What we can do here is simple thing. We can spread all the values of node, and we can toggle the complete value. Complete, and we can say that to do or nodes to do. We are calling it as node. The node dot complete.
So it will return the not state of how it was before.
From complete false to complete true.
And the other way around.
Yes. But the fact is we are not seeing anything changing here. So I have a good idea here. It's time to write some ternary operator here.
Oh, great.
So inside that node, what I want my style to be tackled here. And I'm calling my CSS property, which is text decoration. And I'm using ternary operator here. Let me write if node.complete. If node.complete is true, what I want, I simply want to cut that content, something like line through. And if complete is false, what I want simply none. I think I have written correctly. Let me check.
This should work.
So now if I click on the edit button, I need to refresh it, I guess. Not working.
Not yet.
Alright, so I got the problem here. I just need to return the new nodes array. So here I want to write my return statement. So just a return keyword here. And now it should work. Every time I toggle my node, it should working fine. Let's say node. And when I click on the node, now it's a complete. So it's making a line here. And how I can make this line, I'm using my ternary operator, which is text decoration. If not.complete is true, then it's a line through, and if it's false, then none. So this is a ternary operator.
That's a nice trick.
So yes, text decoration line is a CSS property, which is basically we can decorate our text. So I'm using a ternary operator here, which is if complete is true, then line through, else it is false. So none.
Excellent.
Okay, so now time to check the delete and complete functionality together. So let me add some random stuff here. And when I click on the delete, my delete button is working. I can delete any node here and I can complete it and incomplete it. If I can zoom my screen a little bit. Yes, as you can see, there's a line. Wait. And now what I need to do, I need to write my the same functionality for about the same code for my priority as well. So on click, I need to dispatch. As you can see, Tabnine is so powerful. It completes the entire code for me. And now I just need to type the only type of dispatch.
So this will be will be the same functionality as complete.
Yes, not same functionality, but almost the same code. Because what I'm going to do here is on click type dispatch. And of course, I need to pass my payload again because I need to specify which node I want to prioritize. So here, coming inside the app.js component, here what I want, if my case now is for priority, Tabnine is suggesting me the priority word as well. Great. And here I can return and now it's suggesting me the whole array method as well, return.filter. But now I want my return of nodes.map, and with each node, I have to check that ID is associated with that priority node is equal or not. So for each node, if node.id equals to action.payload.id, what I want here, I want to return my all state of node as it is, but I want to toggle my priority state. So I can say that it's priority state with a toggle. Great. And if this is not the case, I simply want to return my to do, nothing else, which is my basically a note here. So I can do that. Again, for a priority, what I'm going to do here, I'm going to create a round red border around my text so that user can see it on the screen clearly that this is a priority node or priority to do. So for doing that, what I want to create a border. And again, I'm using ternary operator. So yes, you guessed it right. Border if node dot priority means if node dot priority is true, then what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a red border which is 2 pixels solid and red. And if this is not the case, that priority is false, I just want to create nothing. So I'm passing the none value here, and now it should work, I guess.
Let's see it in action.
Yes, this is working. Now I can prioritize my node, I can complete my node, and I can delete my node as well.
So we have functionalities for 3 buttons and for the notes. Basically, it looks like we have a to-do app that's working perfectly from ground zero to the top.
And yes, and the interesting part, we don't need any built arrays. We just use user hook only. We're not using any hard code values for arrays. We just need to write some for loops, some heavy for loops, some heavy functionality. We just need a useReducer hook with dispatch function with the user function only. That's it. And it's basically very simple. Let me quickly revise that. Yes.
Yeah, I'm saying mission accomplished. Let's go through what we've done here, because though it was very simple to implement, eventually for people watching it now, it might be a little complicated to understand for the first time. So going through what we did would be very useful, I think.
Yes. And we started with simply by creating a form here. Inside this form, I have only one input field and one submit button. And what I'm going here in the input field, I'm setting my note value inside a note variable, which I defined here inside the use state. We can also use useReducer only, but it will become a complex app. So that's why I'm using use state here. And now, whenever user add use state and submit the form, I'm calling my handle submit function within some events. And every time user and submit the form, it's refresh my page. So for preventing that, I'm using prevent default method of events. Now I'm using my dispatch function so that we can change our state as we want for adding, for completing, for deleting, and for prioritizing my particular to do. And now here dispatch functions takes a parameter as an object, which is a type. We can pass anything we want here. Let's say in this case, I want to add my notes inside the notes array and a payload. The payload is a tricky concept inside the useReducer. This is because payload is simply, you can say that you can call it anything you want, but it's a convention to use payload because we are loading some values here so that user can use this value outside that scope also. So I'm using that note value outside this app scope as well using payload. And now when control sees that dispatch function is called, it will simply call my reducer function here. And inside .action.time, I'm using switch case statement. And when the action.type is equals to add, it will simply add my note here, which is not a simple note, but I'm using an object. So that's why I'm create a function here, which is create note. And inside that create note function, I have just a return statement with id date.now. content, complete, and priority. That's for value only.
I'll just remind our viewers that we're using the date now as the timestamp instead of creating an ID with another method. We can just use the out of the box JS option of date now.
Exactly. If I use some hard-coded value here, like 1, 2, 3, then I need to return another function here as well, so that every time it will increase my ID. But date or not is a pretty handy trick, so we can use it whenever we want some unique values.
Okay, Pratham, so this was the first part of the video where you showed how to actually create a very useful to-do app that anyone can build on their own using JavaScript and React with a very useful React hook called useReducer. I found this whole process, first of all, very simple to understand, and second, very, very useful. I think I'm gonna build my own app, my own to-do app now. And on our next video, we will add some styling, so we won't have just regular HTML elements. We'll make them look nicer, something that everyone can show off later on and have their friends use it also. I want to thank you for spending the time and show us how you build this really cool app. We will be here on the next video. And
thank you so much. Such a pleasure for me. And also building this complex apps is very easy using Tabnine extension, because you all saw that Tabnine is just an awesome extension. It's complete so much bunch of code for me. The suggestions are awesome. And I just want to say that when I first time used Tabnine, I was just like, wow, this is a great, because the suggestions are directly coming from cloud as well. So this is a very, very good extension that is AI driven. So I definitely suggest you to use this extension so that you can make your coding process easier.
It's so great. Yes. It's so great to hear such recommendations from someone like you. And we will see on the next video how Tabnine continues to help us even when we're just using CSS.
Yes.
All right, so that's all for now. Thank you, Pratham.
Thank you so much.
We will see everyone on the next video. Stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned.